Good evening, folks, and welcome to the live stream. I hope you're all very well this evening. So what are we going to talk about tonight? Well, of course, the two-child benefit cap, Nigel Farage taking pot shots at Anna Sarwar, the leader of Scottish Labour. What's happening in Gaza, of course, as well, and a few other stories. Hope you all managed to vote in the poll that I put up before the live stream started. So let's see some of the results. I have to close it. And I don't see the results. No, it disappeared. I apologies for that. I'm not sure why it disappeared. I tried to display the results, but it didn't display. Apologies. But thanks for voting anyway. I'm not good with these things. Okay, so I hope everyone is well tonight. And apologies for Friday. There were some issues, and I wasn't able to participate for the live stream. I'm hoping to go back to an old format that I had some years back where we'd have a live stream with somebody else. Do you remember ones with David McGuinness, for example, from Scotland? So I'm going to see about doing something like that again. They were quite popular and you guys seem to like them. So it'd be interesting to have somebody else on the live stream. So I'm going to look into doing that again. The poll is invalid because we can't vote early and often. Well said, Chatty Rat. Don't be pressing buttons. Exactly. So let's start off with this first story, which is really interesting. Let me go back to the beginning of this clip. So Nigel Farage got into a bit of a tit for tat with Anna Sarwar, the leader of the Labour Party in Scotland. And this is what he was asked at a clip, and he was asked at this press conference this morning, which is also an interesting thing. I just want to say something interesting about this press conference that Nigel Farage delivered. The media were on it like flies on you know what. And why? Well, because Parliament is in recess. So the other political parties are sitting around doing nothing, and Farage seizes the opportunity, takes advantage of the situation, and puts out this press conference and had the media turn up and journalists comment on what he did. This is a masterstroke. It shows, like, I'm no fan, as you know, of Nigel Farage, but he's very good at manipulating the media, using manipulating narratives. So why the hell aren't other political parties doing something similar? Now, of course, why is Nigel Farage the flavour of the month when other parties who have legitimate policies that they want to push, like, for example, the Green Party, are getting nowhere near the coverage? Yes, there was Zach Polanski who was on Laura Kuenssberg on Sunday, but that was really it. You know, most people don't even know who the leaders of the Green Party are, or even any MPs within the Green Party. But we hear about Farage all the time because, thanks to the media, he's able to manipulate it. We have a super chat from Ivan. Thank you so much, Ivan. I voted yes to the two-child benefit cap being reversed, but much more importantly for me is to reverse the cuts to disability benefit. Yes, I'm in 100% agreement. What needs to happen is there needs to be a reversal on all of these policies, these particular policies that are harming the most vulnerable in society, the poorest and the most vulnerable. There's no justification for these policies. There's no economic justification, there's no ethical justification, and there's no political justification either. Thanks for that. And thanks for voting. Apologies, it disappeared after. Brad, thank you so much for that as well. Farage came back from France early as he'd had enough of fleeing chefs who wanted him to cook frog's legs. Yes, but it was very clever. Thanks, Brad, as well. It was clever of him to go on holiday when Parliament was in, at work. Skiving off. Isn't he supposed to be in Parliament asking questions on behalf of his constituents in Clacton? To hell with Clacton. He spends more time out of the country than in Clacton, it seems. But he was supposed to be there to ask questions. He decided to take an early holiday, then come back when everyone else is on holiday and take advantage of the situation. He's clever. I'm not going to say he's not a clever politician. He's very good at manipulating people and the media. I voted for a turn. He's reminding Clarkey he cares about them. The two-child benefit cap and added rape clause is an attack on women, along with the WASPy women and the winter fuel allowance. Mostly women are affected. What's Labour's issue? I honestly don't understand this. There's no ethical or reasonable justification for these changes to the winter fuel allowance or to the two-child benefit cap or for the WASPy women as well. I keep hearing a lot of angry people from Clacton on LBC complaining about Farage. Well, hopefully they'll vote against him at the next election. Goodly evening, everybody. It's great to see you on, Sir Larry the Cat. When are you visiting Scotland? I would love to. I would love to visit Scotland sometime either this year or next year. Been invited a number of times. I have to head up north. I'd love to visit. I've never been to Scotland, so I'd love to visit. Anyway, let's jump into this clip here. This is where Farage was asked about a video that his party had put out online, and he'll actually show a clip. So let's have a look.
Last week, Reform was accused of what critics say is a race-baiting advert for a Scottish MSP by-election by wrongly claiming that Anna Sarwar would put the Pakistani community first. What's your response to that? Thank you.
There's a bit of a row going on in Scotland. Everyone's having a go at us. Labour, the SNP. So maybe we're getting something right.
No.
I think what I'm able to do is to show you what Mr. Sarwar actually said and how we've responded to it.
Pakistan is being represented in every mainstream political party in Scotland and across the UK. The days where South Asian communities get to lead political parties and get to lead countries is now upon us.
So it was Anna Sarwar that introduced sectarianism into Scottish politics, making it perfectly clear his priority was to a certain section of the community. All we've done is to put out the exact words spoken by him without any comment. We've said nothing, just that we will represent the people of that constituency. And the fact that they, having chosen to go down the sectarian route, choose to throw accusations back at us, says to me, Natasha, that we are winning. Thank you very much.
It would be a terrible thing if we actually found the original video, wouldn't it, Nigel? And I actually have found the original video. Here it is on YouTube. Let's go back a little bit to what it's a 4-minute video, but don't worry, you don't have to watch all of it. But you can see here Anna Sarwar here at this event, and have a listen to what he. Apologies for the audio; it's not great, but let's have a listen to what he actually said.
Across the country, we would have had those transport workers across the country. Scotland and UK's Pakistani community literally kept this country going in our darkest and most difficult moments, and we should never And that then brings me on to what I feel our role is going forward. And can I first of all say that some might think when they see Pakistanis in politics and see Pakistanis in different political parties in Scotland and politics, that somehow that demonstrates a division in Pakistani communities. Actually, I think the opposite. I think it is a source of immense strength that we now have Pakistanis being represented in every mainstream political party in Scotland and across the UK. Because we will only truly get real power if we just have more Pakistanis sitting in council chambers and parliaments, but actually having more Pakistanis and South Asians sitting in the corridors of power making the decisions. And that's where I'll end tonight, is to say the change is coming. And the days where our South Asian community are viewed as a vote bank or a curry bank are well and truly gone. The days where South Asian communities get to lead political parties and get to lead countries is now upon us. The days when South Asian communities get to decide not just which school our children go to, but what they are taught in those schools is also coming. The days when our South Asian communities get to decide not just what shifts they do in our National Health Service, but actually how we operate and run and rebuild our National Health Service.
Okay, contrast it with what Farage put up. Farage, of course, edited out the part at the beginning where he said, look, there are Pakistanis in different political parties, and that's a demonstration of the different views of Pakistanis and the South Asian communities, the role that they play in society. So what Anas Anwar is saying here is, Pakistanis have different views on politics, and that's why they are in different political parties. And we would like to see more leadership from the Pakistani community. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But of course, Farage didn't show the entire clip because Farage is a frigging charlatan. Dishonest piece of crap. Farage knows that he's lying. This is the worst thing. It's not like he didn't know or he was handed this clip and he just showed it. No, he knew he was lying. And that is lying. Taking someone's words and editing the part beginning and the part at the end in order to sell a narrative. It would be like if I was to say, I'm going to kill you, and then you just take that and you didn't actually have the full context where I said, I was working hard in the garden and I come in and I see a sandwich and I say to that sandwich, I'm going to kill you, or I will kill you. You need to have the context. And there's no context with Farage's. He just wants that clip, that soundbite, to sell to who? To racists. To racists, people who have already been primed to see Pakistani people as the enemy. So it's easy for Farage, take that clip, what he said, and throw it out there. And then, of course, he knows that the people watching that clip who are supportive of Farage are not going to go and look for the full clip. They don't care about context. Peter, thank you so much for that super chat. I keep getting arrested. I must get something right. What's that, Peter? So Ron and Max on a live stream would be interesting viewing. I can never get him. He's very difficult to organize. He's always booked. Thanks for showing that, Max. Bravo. Look, I know there are people on the stream who are not big fans of Labour in Scotland or Anas Anwar, but I think it's important that what Anas Anwar said was honest. What he said was right. He wants to see a greater representation of his community. If Anas Anwar was Andrew Murphy, okay, and he was talking to a group of Irish people who had moved to Britain, emigrated to Britain, or second generation Irish people, whatever, and he said, look, I'd like to see more Irish people or people from an Irish background in politics or in senior positions in politics. Nobody would batter an eyelid. Nobody would raise an eyebrow over it. Batter an eyelid. No one would raise an eyebrow over it. But because people have been primed to see the Pakistani community as the problem, as a major problem, and Farage, of course, knows all I have to do is say the word Pakistani and then people will lose their minds. He can use that. Now, will Farage come back and apologise? Of course not, because he has done his job. He has convinced people who already hate a certain section of society that they need to hate them more. And because Anas Anwar or Sadiq Khan represent a particular section of society, they're always fair game. Nigel Farage would not say the same things about somebody from an Irish background, or maybe from the United States, or somebody from Australia or somewhere like that. No, he doesn't give a crap about them, and he knows that it'd be no point trying to sell that to his lot. Ivan, again, thank you so much, Ivan. In my area, there's the Suffolk show, and tomorrow it will be a reform stall there. Oh, God. I can't go due to being housebound, but if anyone is in the area tomorrow, maybe somebody can, once again, you can go and have a debate with people from Reform. No hargy-bargy, no argy-bargy, no fighting. But if somebody can go there to the Suffolk show, that'd be great. And, express your view, challenge them, maybe debate them on something. Because the people who are, reform grassroots, if you call them, they're not able to debate like Nigel Farage. So they may actually be able, it may be easier to get through to them than maybe somebody like Farage. Thanks, Ivan. That's a good piece of advice if somebody is in the area. Alistair, thank you so much for that super chat. And SNP MP that brought up this in Westminster. Yeah, that was Pete Wishart that I covered in Hero of the Week. I think it was Hero of the Week this week. Yeah, he done a great job. And that was, an SNP MP who's obviously in opposition to Labour in Scotland, saying, look, this is completely unacceptable what Farage and Reform have done. And, Farage and Reform don't frankly give a shit. Now, Anna Sarwar has responded to this. Let me bring up the clip.
What a poisonous little man Nigel Farage is. I've just seen him on the TV this morning claiming that I've introduced sectarianism into Scottish politics. I've been fighting against sectarianism all my adult life. And let's just think about this man, Nigel Farage. While I was working in Scotland's NHS in one of the most deprived communities in the country, he was on the Brussels gravy train. And while I'm campaigning to change our NHS, he wants to privatise our NHS. He's a pathetic little man that knows nothing about Scotland, doesn't understand Scotland, doesn't care about Scotland, and frankly, Scotland's going to reject him.
I hope so. I hope Scotland will reject Nigel Farage, although I fear that he will do quite well because there are racists and bigots in Scotland as well. Okay, Scotland is not immune to racism and bigotry. There are a lot of Rangers fans, for example. There are also a lot of Tories who obviously are not happy with the SNP and they will never vote for the SNP. And they say, well, there's no point voting for the Tories in Scotland because they're not able to do anything. Do the Tories still have? They have a few seats still in the House of Commons, but in the Scottish Parliament, the Tories are going down the toilet. So I think Reform are going to pick up a lot, as they're doing in the rest of the UK. They're picking up a lot of seats, a lot of votes from disgruntled Tories. And they're a bigger threat to the Tories than they are to Labour or the SNP. So I think you will see at the Scottish election next year, you will see a lot of Reform seats, a lot of Reform wins. But it'll be down to, I think, a lot of disgruntled Tory voters and maybe a few people from Labour who maybe are not happy with how Starmer is running the country. Peter, thank you so much for that super chat. Farage claims to know what it's like to be a miner. After all, the quote mining is done. Yes, well said. Done a bit of good quote mining there. Leave out the other part, but take that little section. So he all he needs is a hard hat, and he's a perfect miner. Well, he could get tips from Lee Anderson, didn't he? Work in the mines as well, the real mines. Thanks for that, Peter. Ivan, thank you so much for that super chat once again. Could Scottish Labour take legal action against Reform? No, I see. The thing is, what he did here isn't illegal, and it isn't libel, because he's not saying something that he's creating an interpretation, but he's actually using Anna Sarwar's own words. So of course, if you take something of I had said and you cut off the beginning and the end and just use the few words, I don't think I'd have a case against you because they're my words. Of course, taking it out of context is dishonest, but unfortunately, being dishonest is not illegal. If it was, then there'd be no politics. So unfortunately, I don't think taking legal action would only actually help Nigel Farage, because what does he do? He claims to be the victim. So he would, poor me, I'm being sued by this huge political party who can't defend their own policy. So he would turn it into a situation. He turned himself into Jesus Christ or something like that. So I don't think it's a good idea actually taking him to court over something like this. It would be a good idea if there were people within Reform who invested money in becoming a candidate or whatever, and then lost their deposit or whatever, or conned in some way. They should take him to court if they have a case. Don't play Farage's games. Yeah, Nigel Farage's games. Reagan Elite well said. No. You can't beat him in situations like that. I think it's defamation or even slander. I don't. Technically, it's not. And I'm not a legal expert, but technically, it's not. I don't think, because you're using someone's own words, even if you don't put them in context. But it doesn't matter at this stage because the damage has already been done. Scargill should sue Farage. Farage was a toddler, then a minor, then a teenager, and then grew up a toddler. Has he the magic act at the Westminster Clubs, Max? No, I don't understand. He does the magic act at the Westminster Clubs. If Farage wants to debate the working class pub, put him up against Emily Thornberry. Boozy Wheezy Farage won't last 3 rounds of bare knuckle debate. Yes. So this, of course, is in reference to Farage challenging Keir Starmer to a debate in a working men's club, I should say. That would be a disaster for Farage, for Starmer, because Starmer would turn up in a suit probably. I'd be like, okay, that's not a good start. But he can't blend in. He can't talk the talk. Farage is very good at talking the talk, even though Farage, of course, is cosplaying. Farage is not working class. He's anyone on this stream, no matter how much money you have, you're closer to working class than Nigel Farage would ever be. So Farage is very good at pretending to be. He's an actor. He plays a part. And Phoenix Nights. That's good. He would play the part of the guy down the pub, the pub bore. And of course, if it was a working man's club, Farage would be able to organise the pub to be filled with reform voters or reform supporters. So of course, it would be favourable to Farage. So he would win. I would be very surprised if Farage did not win any debate in a pub or in a working men's club. But as you said, if it was somebody else who went up against him, maybe somebody who has Angela Rayner, for example, would probably do a better job. But I'm not a huge fan of these things, because the debate should be about the policies, and of course it won't be about policies. It would be about personalities, and it shouldn't be about personalities. I like hearing laughter. It makes me happy, especially as we can all have, as I can give, all I can give fun. Oh, that's great. Thanks for that. Great to see you on the stream, Jenny. Do you think, who do you think will get axed first? Starmer or Badenoch? Badenoch for sure. She's not making any progress for the party. The Tories are going down the toilet, and there's no sign of any sort of recovery. Maybe the only way things would turn around for her, I think, is if Starmer really messed up or if Farage messed up. But I don't see that on the horizon anytime soon. So I'm not putting money on it, but honestly, I didn't expect her to last much longer than the May elections. But then there's nobody really in place to take over from her. Robert Jenrick, but Robert Jenrick is not very popular within the Conservative Party. He's not liked in the Conservative Party. He's two-faced. At least with Kemi Badenoch, you know what you get. With Robert Jenrick, you don't know what you're getting. And of course, he wants to pander to Farage. He wants to move the party further to the right. And I think even though there aren't that many of them left, there are still a few so-called moderates who would probably defect to the Lib Dems if that happened. Because you can't out Farage. The Tories should have learned that lesson before. Brad, once again, thank you so much for that. Starmer should accept the offer, then put a banner over the entrance club titled Clacton. Then Farage will magically vanish. Yes. Should actually hold it in Clacton so that Farage would actually have to turn up, but that's unfortunately not going to happen. They want to do it in the north of England, I believe, in the Red Wall, as far as I know. Thanks so much, Brad. Reform have no policies. They have one policy: turn the boats back. That's about it. They have actually put out a few policies today, or sort of policies. They want to increase or modify a threshold where people don't pay tax until they earn £20,000 a year, which is actually a good idea. If I'm about policies, I'm not about personalities. So if somebody comes up with a good policy, well done. So that's actually good policy. But the problem with that policy is, how do you pay for it? Because what Farage wants to do is he wants to say, well, what we're going to do is give people a massive tax cut, and then we're going to take money from somewhere else. And he's talking about cutting public services. So he would say, hey, I'm going to give you 10 quid a week extra in your pay packet, but we're going to take 25 quid away from you when it comes to public services. So you're not going to have access to public services anymore. Or if you want healthcare, you're going to have insurance or something like that. So, well, Farage would be good. And this is what the Republican Party do in the US all the time. And I keep saying this. What's happening in the US is coming to Britain and to Europe. And unfortunately, the politicians on this side of the pond don't seem to be waking up and smelling that coffee. They don't seem to understand exactly Trump policies. These are Trump policies. It's about tax cuts for the rich, but sold to the poor, or sold to the working class. So the working class are convinced, what Farage or Trump or whoever, what they're going to do is they're going to give us a tax cut so I don't have to pay so many taxes if I'm working. But you may be a few quid better off, a month or every 2 weeks or whatever. But in the long term, you're going to be worse off because you're going to pay for everything else, because public services are going to be cut. And of course, the poorer you are, the more likely you're going to rely on public services. 40% of people work on universal credit are working. So you can imagine if Farage takes away universal credit, or makes it more difficult for people to access universal credit, or makes the funding available for universal credit less. So people will save a few quid on their income tax, but they will lose it on any support that they get from the state. Reform putting the N in cuts. So well said, Brad. So well said. Thanks for that. Anyway, let's move on. I want to touch on this story here because this is the big one of the day. Apart from Farage, let's have a listen to this.
Israel had said it wanted to control the way aid got to Palestinians in Gaza from hubs like this one in the far south. Day one of that plan didn't survive contact with reality. The reality of a population Israel had denied aid since the start of March. Initially, there had been reluctance to come here. The process included biometric measurement. Hamas had urged resistance against what it called an Israeli intelligence operation. Israel has denied that, and in any case, soon enough, any idea of control was evaporating.
People stormed the place and stole everything. The Americans started shooting, then the Israelis. More than 20 injured. And then a tank climbed the hill and started shooting.
My goodness. It's a situation that just gets worse and worse. So, a bit of context here. Of course, Israel had blocked humanitarian aid going into Gaza since March. And this meant that people obviously are starving and they needed support. And now they've decided what we're going to do is we're going to allow in a little bit of aid, but it's going to be controlled by American mercenaries, the Israeli army, the IDF, and our own organization, which is going to distribute the aid. But of course, we're going to put restrictions on who can access the aid, under the guise of, well, we don't want Hamas getting access to it. And of course, it's not going to fix the situation because people desperately Gaza needs to be flooded with aid in order for people to get access to what they need. But the situation is just getting worse and worse.
Each box is supposed to contain enough for nearly 60 meals, prompting some disbelief today. This man carrying the contents in his T-shirt after his box broke.
I saw people running there. I decided to go too. People said it was scary. I didn't care. it was dangerous or not. I was going to go. I want to feed my children.
Earlier today, the Israeli military proudly displayed the operation on social media, prepared and ready, so they said, to deliver aid. The plan had been for nominated family representatives to collect food from the US and Israeli-backed, Swiss-based Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. The army said it would stop Hamas looting the aid, something aid agencies said was not happening at any scale to begin with.
Jenny makes a valid point. If there were any tunnels, they would have had food, which proves there aren't any tunnels. Yeah, because the tunnels were supposed to bring stuff in, illicit material from outside into Gaza. But what happened to these tunnels? I thought these tunnels were supposed to be destroyed. But they keep saying, but there are still tunnels. But why aren't they using these tunnels then?
We're standing here in this logistical area that the IDF built and will be run by a third party that will give the people of Gaza the aid directly. Every day, thousands of Gazans will be able to come here, reach this third party, and get the aid directly.
For weeks, that idea had been heavily criticized by the UN and other aid agencies as unworkable and politicized. The location of the 4 hubs established so far, 3 in the far south, 1 in the middle of the territory, also decried for enforcing further displacement. The UN's aid chief, Tom Fletcher, said it would see starvation used as a bargaining chip.
You starve people for over 2 months now, and then you allow a trickle of aid, a trickle of food in, and you ask them to go to Rafah, where people have to walk for miles and miles in order to get a food parcel. Is this a viable solution? This is a humiliation.
On Sunday, the executive director of Gaza Humanitarian Foundation resigned, saying it wouldn't be able to adhere to principles of humanity, neutrality, impartiality and independence. And while established aid mechanisms operate at restricted levels, everywhere evidence of the need for them.
Even when they bring aid, nothing reaches us. As you can see, we're here like stray dogs collecting food from the trash. I swear, this is our life day to day. We collect food every day from the garbage. If we don't gather anything, then we don't eat.
The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation blamed Hamas blockages and the volume of people for the chaos today, saying it had distributed 8,000 boxes and would be open again tomorrow. A UN spokesman.
Is this a permanent situation? Is this how it's supposed to be going forward? Or is this a temporary situation? Like people are supposed to come in, get a box and then leave, and then come back in a few days' time and get another box and then leave. Is this what the permanent situation is supposed to be? Because how are people supposed to live like that? Could Scotland call an independence vote since it's been 10 years? Once again, it's complicated. It's like Scotland, according to the rules, and I don't know if these are the right rules or not, but I don't know if this is the right interpretation of the rules, but it has to ask for a Section 30 from Westminster, and then Westminster say, okay, you have the right now to hold a referendum. Remember, it's a union of equals, but you need to ask permission from another country to have a referendum. Imagine if Brexit was like that. Imagine if the UK had to ask Brussels for a referendum, and then Brussels were like, nah, you can't have a referendum. Do you think people like Nigel Farage and Reform UK, or the Brexit party at the time, would be like, okay, sorry guys, we asked Brussels for a referendum, but they said no. So maybe we can try again in 10 years' time. No, I don't think it would have worked like that. I think they would have probably, was it Farage said that he would get a rifle or something? Wasn't it? He said that he would. What was that about a rifle that Farage would take up against someone? I don't know if it was migrants or the EU. I don't remember which it was. Scotland should not have the authority. Does not have the authority. Needs to be granted by Westminster. Once again, a union of equals. You're allowed to. You have to ask for permission to leave. Okay. Guys, we're about halfway through the stream, so let's take a short comedy moment, and we'll be back in just a jiffy with more serious stuff. Hope you enjoy this. Oops. I have to switch, sorry.
Welcome to Broken News. Showbiz news now, and we understand that the TV presenter Bradley Walsh has signed a contract to host every single thing on TV from now on forever. The move comes as the main UK terrestrial TV networks say they've been unable to think of anyone else. Our reporter has more.
Wheel of Fortune, Spin Star, Doctor Who, Law and Order UK, The Chase, Keep It in the Family, The Royal Variety Show, Play to the Whistle, Cash Trapped, £1 Million Quim, The National Lottery, Kick the Homeless, The Nightly Show, Beat the Chasers, Blankety Blank, and now Gladiators. It's fair to say that Bradley Walsh is no stranger to TV. And prepare to see a lot more of him, as Mr. Walsh signs an exclusivity deal with every show on every channel forever. One senior commissioner told Broken News that they'd become concerned at allegations that too many on-air TV jobs were going to middle-aged white men, but then accidentally gave all the on-air TV jobs to one middle-aged white man, while training his son to take over those jobs like some kind of TV Kim Jong-il. Back to you.
Thank you. What a lovely story. And that's it from me. It's been a privilege hosting this show, but as of next week, there is a new host.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Let's move on. Okay, so before we get to this story, let me give a bit of context. Recently there was a band, a punk band in Northern Ireland called Kneecap. A particular name for a band, but that's a side issue. So Kneecap got into a bit of hot water recently because they waved the flag of an organization that is prescribed by the British government, Hezbollah. And Hezbollah is, of course, described as a terrorist organization, prescribed terrorist organization by the UK government. Now, there are other terrorist organizations prescribed by the UK government. For example, the UVF is an illegal prescribed organization by the British government. And going by that logic, it would be illegal to wave a flag or to present a flag of the UVF anywhere, even in Northern Ireland. But for some reason, the government doesn't, or the police don't seem to care about that. But if you do wave a flag of, for example, Hezbollah, then you will be arrested. Now, a flag is one thing. If the police say, look, problem, let's set aside flags for a moment. It's not the end of the world, waving a flag. But there are more important things, like, people. Have a listen to this story.
One of the victims of a sectarian attack in North Belfast last night has said it has made her question whether it's safe to live in the area. A number of homes on Annalise Street and Aloha Street were targeted by a group of masked men. Rory O'Reilly reports.
At around 10 o'clock last night, a group of around 10 to 15 masked men entered the area, throwing a number of bricks and hammers through windows as children slept close by.
Last night I was actually out the back of the house and my partner came out to let me know that it happened, and when I came out I sort of thought maybe it was kids messing about or something like that. I didn't realise the extreme, and once he explained and everybody hid in their houses and then we all came out together, I have to say it was terrifying. I've never ever experienced anything like that before, and I think today, especially with it hitting the news and so many people out and everything going on, just makes it very real, just how much at risk you are just for who you are.
A number of Catholic families moved into the lower Old Park area in November, but until now they say there had been no prior warning that they were being targeted.
There was no real warning here in terms of graffiti, or the police even said there was no warning as well, so it's a very worrying situation. But I suppose speaking to families today, they just want things to settle down, they want the issue to be de-escalated, and they don't want to leave their homes, and they shouldn't have to leave their homes. We often talk about the housing crisis here in North Belfast. One particular family who lives here has waited 8 years.
Police are continuing to have a presence in the area in case of any further attacks in the coming days. But the message from residents here is clear. They won't be intimidated and they have no plans to move. Rory O'Reilly, BBC Newsline, North Belfast.
Okay, so this is a family being intimidated out of their home in North Belfast by... They were loyalist paramilitaries. Okay, let's call a spade, loyalist paramilitaries. Now, I hope that the police are going to go and investigate this and arrest these individuals and put them in prison because they're intimidating people out of their homes. Now, this is the problem with this whole story is if this were anywhere else in the United Kingdom, everyone would be talking about it. But when it comes to Northern Ireland, it's, well, you know, that's Belfast. This is sort of part and parcel of living in Belfast. Can you imagine if it was a situation in England where a family was driven out of their home by terrorists? Terrorists. Literal terrorists. Can you imagine if somebody, you know, a group of people who are associated with ISIS went into some community and kicked people out? What do you think Farage and others would be doing? They would be up in arms, and rightly so. They would be demanding that the police arrest these people. There would be vigils. There would be a hullabaloo about it, and rightly so. But when it comes to Northern Ireland, a family was intimidated. Well, that's, you know, these things happen. Or this is normal life. No, it should not be normal life. No, people should be allowed to live in their homes. And fuck the terrorists if they have a problem with people living in a community. The terrorists have no right to be there. They're the ones who should be kicked out. You know, I understand the situation in Northern Ireland, in the north of Ireland, is different. I'm not an idiot. But why is it acceptable? Why is it considered, well, there's nothing we can do about it? I covered in another video some time back where a migrant family, I think they were refugees, were living in Northern Ireland, in Belfast, I think it was in North Belfast, and they were kicked out. They were told, you need to actually go and visit and have a meeting. Wait till you hear this if you didn't already hear this. You need to go and meet with the loyalist community, the organization that represents loyalist frigging paramilitaries, and negotiate with them. This is the police. The police told people you have to go and negotiate with the terrorists to be allowed into this community. Insane. Bloody insane. Unacceptable in any other part of the world, not just in any other part of the UK. Can you imagine a situation where you had to go and negotiate with loyalist paramilitaries to say, can I move into this area? Sorry, who is in charge? The police or the loyalist paramilitaries? And if these are loyalist paramilitaries, what the fuck are they not in jail? They're illegal. They're prescribed. Sorry, this thing really boils my... You know what? Brad, thanks so much for that super chat. I look forward to the honour. I'm not sure what that's about. Thanks for that. Rantaway Max, Spicy Max is excellent to see. Thanks for that, Alistair. It's just... why is it acceptable? Why is it sort of believed to be normal? It's normal. It's normal that, you know, we have loyalist paramilitaries, or Republican paramilitaries for that fact, but paramilitaries who are prescribed, who are terrorists, who are able to tell people in a community, you're not allowed to come in here. Like, you know, when it comes to public housing, you're supposed to go to the council and ask the council, can I move into this area? Or I apply for housing at the council, and they decide, not some fucking guy who used to be going around in the 1990s shooting people. Why are they allowed to get away with it? Because it's deemed normal that they are representatives of the community. It's insane. It shouldn't be like this. Like, the police telling people... Can you imagine a family coming from, I don't know, from Bangladesh who say, look, you know, we'd like to apply for housing in North Belfast, and they're told, you need to go and meet with this terrorist organization. And they were like, sorry, what? You need to meet with the terrorist organization. Ask for a guy called Billy. He'll decide whether you can stay, and if he doesn't like the look of you, he'll probably beat you with an iron bar. So hopefully you won't. They had told people you need to negotiate with the LCC? I think it was the Loyalist Community Council. How did they treat EU citizens? The same way. There is an old joke. I don't know if it's a true joke or not, but an old story. I don't know if it's a joke or it's a true story about a Muslim guy who moves to Belfast, and he's walking down the street and he's stopped by a guy, and the guy says, "Are you Protestant or are you Catholic?" And the Muslim guy says, I'm neither, I'm Muslim. And then the response from the guy is like, are you Muslim Catholic or Muslim Protestant? It could have happened, I'm not sure. Depending on some people, maybe it actually happened. Sitting with them and having a cup of tea. I can hear it now. A white guy saying, over there, you'll have the Sinn Féin law in the Irish pub. Because French and Germans might not know what they need to do there. It seems to be the case that you need to, it depends on the area. If you go to I don't think it's a big problem in the Republican areas, in the Irish nationalist areas. They seem to be more open to people from outside. But the loyalist communities are very much right wing. They're far right. A lot of them have connections to the far right in England, the football hooligans or Combat 18 or the National Front in England. And that's why we saw a lot of the pushback against migrants. Remember where during the riots that took place in Southport, there were also riots taking place in Belfast, in loyalist communities, not in nationalist communities, because they were like, we don't have a problem with foreigners, but the loyalist community certainly do, and they're anti-immigrant. So of course, if you're an immigrant and you're moving into a nationalist area or a Republican area, you're probably okay. But if you're moving into a loyalist community, you need to negotiate with the terrorists. Okay, the British government said we don't negotiate with terrorists, but our advice to people who want to move into North Belfast is you need to negotiate with terrorists. Sorry, I just wanted to cover this story because it's so fucking insane. Okay, let's move on. This story here, Farage pledges to scrap 2-child benefit cap. Okay, first of all, it's really frustrating, this whole story. I'll get back to the story in a moment, but it's so frustrating because this is not the 2-child benefit cap. It's a cap on a tax credit for people who have more than two or more children under universal credit. It's not child benefit. It's been sold as child benefit. Oh, if you get rid of child benefit, then people will have more kids or not have more kids or whatever. It's not the case. It's an old joke, Max. Are you a Catholic Jew or a Protestant Jew? That's it, probably. Chatty Rat would know. 2 lads got beaten in Derry because they were in a loyalist area. I'm not saying that there aren't issues in the Republican areas as well when it comes to crime and that, definitely, but the loyalist ones are very anti-foreigner, or foreigner is anyone who's outside the community, literally. Brad, thanks so much for that. I'm shocked Boris Johnson didn't scrap the child benefit cap. He'd have earned millions as a result, even more after his latest news. Oh my goodness. Yes, thanks for reminding us, Brad. The Boris Johnson is having another one. Another Johnson is on the way. I hope it was through IVF. Because think about... No, don't. Think about we won't go down that road. Anyway, let's get back to this story here about Farage. Farage pledges to scrap 2-child cap. Reform leader Nigel Farage is making a pitch to support families and encourage people to have children. Okay, that's a pile of crap. Nigel Farage does not care about families, and he doesn't care. Nigel Farage, didn't he have a number of affairs? Okay, like Boris Johnson. So when we think of family and Nigel Farage, I don't think they really go together. But encouraging people to have more kids, it's not going to work. So I said in a video recently, I said, look, there are people, I'm not going to go off too much on this because I've already covered it, but there are two groups of people who want to have kids and people who don't want to have kids. So the people who don't want to have kids, let's leave them aside for a moment. The people who want to have kids, they're in two groups. Ones who can and those who can't. Now, some people who can't will make sacrifices in order to have kids, but most people who want to have kids and can't have them and I'm talking about economic reasons, I'm not talking about biological reasons. Talking about economic reasons, they can't because of housing. They can't get. They're worried about job prospects, job security. They're worried about the cost of living, childcare, lack of childcare. So there are a whole range of reasons why people will be holding back or reconsidering having a child. And it's nothing to do with tax, and it's nothing to do with child benefit or the 2-child benefit cap under universal credit. But it's unfortunately, the media will run with, oh, Nigel Farage says X, so X must be true. He says Reform is committed to lifting the 2-child benefit cap and introducing a tax break for married couples. Okay, but that's not going to encourage people to have children. Farage is encouraging family, community and country as part of his pledge. This is very, very, very Trumpian. Once again, the irony of people like Nigel Farage talking about family, community or country. So family, didn't he have a number of affairs? Community, well, he's about creating division within the community. And country, well, he threw the country under a bus when he told people to vote against their own interests. So I don't know how he can even mention anything related to that. And the Clacton MP says he wants to see a transferable tax allowance between people who are wedded. Once again, as I keep saying, Farage wants to introduce tax cuts because he thinks they will be popular, and tax cuts are popular. But the problem with tax cuts is they have to be paid for. And how would Farage pay? And this is why the media need to grill Farage. And unfortunately, I'm being a bit of a Nostradamus here, but the media will not grill Nigel Farage. He'll be allowed to say his tripe. There may be a few occasions where maybe Victoria Derbyshire or Wilfred Frost on Sky News will push back, but they will be the exception. Okay, let's get used to this. The only people who are going to really push back on Farage are people like myself and others on YouTube or on social media, because the media are not going to do anything. Nigel Farage is going to say, I'm a man of family values, and they'll be like, oh, okay, next question. That's what we're going to see. Spoilers. And in another multi-million pound pledge, Farage says he wants to reintroduce universal winter fuel payments, something the Prime Minister has already suggested the government might do. Oh my goodness, this is so frustrating about Starmer. So fucking frustrating. So his backbenchers have been saying you should be U-turning on the winter fuel allowance. Commentators like myself have been saying you should be U-turning on the winter fuel allowance. Organizations, charities have been saying you should be U-turning on the winter fuel allowance. And Starmer and his government say, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, we don't give a crap. And then as soon as Nigel Farage says, hey, I'm thinking of, if I was in power, I would U-turn on the winter fuel. I would get rid of the winter fuel. Or I would change the winter fuel allowance. I would make sure that everyone gets it. And then Starmer's like, hey, we better do that thing that Nigel Farage is talking about. A U-turn, as I've mentioned in the past, is a good thing. But it has to be connected to you listening to people. And those people should not be Nigel frigging Farage. But now what Farage is doing is he's doing his victory lap saying, see, I've been able to influence the government. So you should actually vote for me because I'm the one who's actually in charge. What is wrong with the Labour Party? What the hell is wrong with Morgan McSweeney? I've said before, Morgan McSweeney should be frigging sacked. I was going to say something else. He should be frigging sacked because he's useless. He doesn't understand anything, it seems. This is a policy, yes, according to certain polling, people don't want multimillionaires getting winter fuel allowance. Yes, we understand that. But the policy is damaging the Labour Party. They have lost seats, literally lost seats over this. And they're like, okay, well, let's go faster. What was it? Faster and more furious or something like that. Faster and further or further and faster. Some bullshit like that. And what you're doing is you're just helping Farage. I've said before, Farage is taking more votes away from the Conservatives than from Labour. But Labour seem to be determined to say, whatever Nigel says, we better do what Nigel says. Like, you're actually helping him, even though you're not really helping him. Like, politically and, you know, from a perspective point of view, you're helping Farage. Because all he has to say is, hey, I'm the one who got this U-turn. Not the backbench MPs, not charities, not the media, not commentators. No, it was me. I said jump, and the Prime Minister said how high. That's what he's able to sell to the public, because that's what's happening, it seems. Modern Europe descended from 8th century King Charlemagne. In 300 years' time, in Europe, we will be descended from Boris. In 300 years' time, Europe will have descended from Boris Johnson. No. Well, I'm not doing very well. I don't have the mop, so I didn't descend from Boris Johnson. But as you say, 300. Give it some time. Thanks, Brad. Peter, wish Boris's wife would push back. Can she not have a headache or something like that? Sorry, Boris, not tonight. I have a headache. But you seem okay. No. It's just come on. For the sake of the country, for the sake of everyone's sanity. Thanks, Peter. Labour has no direction. Try not putting your heating on at all and going to the library or church to keep warm and get some food. It's the party of Natalie Elphicke. Yeah, what happened to her? They govern the Daily Mail headlines, govern before Daily Mail headlines and whatever, and whoever pays them. Yes. McSweeney is a blue shirt from West Cork. Sounds like that. He certainly sounds. He certainly sounds like a blue shirt or blue Labour, like that Gasman guy or whatever. I want to show you this clip from James O'Brien from today. I think it was.
If we are going to,
so this is about Farage.
If we are going to report crime saying a brown person did this, before anything's gone further than they've just been arrested, before it's gone to court and the facts are known, then we need to do it for everybody. You know, we need to say every time, because all we hear at the moment is there was a crime, here was a crime, there was a crime, this crime was committed by a brown person, there was another crime, there was another crime. If we heard that the 10 other crimes were all committed by white people, it dilutes the message that people who are not from here shouldn't be here because they're causing all the trouble.
Yeah.
And I think that helps. And I think this messaging, it's not for the people who are in the hole. You know, it's not for people who've already boiled their brains. It's for the people who are on the edge. Obviously, there are people like Farage who are on that bandwagon, but I don't put them as the cause of it. I put social media as the cause of it. When it is profitable for you to spread lies and get clicks, then you'll do whatever you need to do in order to get those clicks and get that money.
Like the clip at the beginning with Anna Sarwar, where Farage was telling misrepresenting his words. Farage knows that he can say things and get away with it, and he knows that the lie will be half around the world before the truth has its trousers on, and it's very difficult to correct the lies once the lies have gotten, are spread. The hard work is telling the truth because you're trying to undo the lie. It's much easier just to lie. But this point about the police saying, this crime was committed by a white guy or a white woman, or this crime was committed by a black guy or a brown person, whatever. I think it's actually probably, unfortunately, it may be necessary because of the situation that Farage and others have created. Because as we remember back at the Southport riots, the Farage riots, Farage was able to ask his question, why isn't the police telling us more about the suspect? Why don't the public demand more information? We deserve the right to know. So now that you do know, you're extremely silent. Have there been any riots? No. Have Farage and others been complaining about this particular individual? No. They've been extremely silent. Isn't that so strange? Can you imagine if the guy had not been a white guy, it was somebody else? What do you think the reports today would be? Farage would be ranting and raving about this. Carrie, please, Boris, let me go on top. Thank you, Brad. Thank you very much for that. Oh my goodness. If you're a sandwich killer, yeah, here you're a sandwich killer now, Father. I am indeed. Brad, what have you been drinking tonight? Brad calms Max. That's nightmare fuel. It is indeed. It belongs in some weird AI video. And only there. Oh, guys, we're almost at the end of the stream, so I want to cover one final story before we finish. Maybe this is nightmare
at this
fuel.
tech training center in Shanghai, they are slowly but surely creating a robot revolution. We watched as a team of operators helped put the human into humanoid robots. Through repetitive tasks, they are generating data which will eventually allow a fleet of robots to be programmed to do everything from making a sandwich to restocking supermarkets.
This is where AI is being transformed from something obscure and intangible to joining the physical realm of our everyday lives.
It can take a lot of dangerous work, a lot of dirty works and repeated works and release our human, and we can focus on what we want to do.
Quality director Ran Chung believes by 2030 most homes will have a robot. And China's huge manufacturing base is helping the country take a lead in the field.
We have the market capabilities and also the base of manufacturing and also the number of intelligence in AI field. China almost have the top is on the top of the world, so we can believe that the future of robots is in China.
This year China has shown off a troupe of dancing robots, a collection capable of running a half marathon, or at least trying. And one company has shown us exactly how factory floors might look in the future. Behind China's tech drive are subsidies from the government and an ambition from the very top to overtake the United States. On a recent visit to tech companies in Shanghai, Xi Jinping told workers the success of the nation rests on them.
What's happening here in robotics is the same strategy that was used to create China's dominance in electric vehicles. The country has built this industry from scratch with the clear aim of becoming a global leader.
While Donald Trump is seeking to revive American manufacturing jobs, China is creating automated alternatives. There are hundreds of companies like this one in Beijing using AI to develop robotic solutions in every field. And one of China's biggest advantages is the 4 million students a year graduating in science, technology and engineering.
Look, China is like saying, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to invest in this. And what is Donald Trump saying? We need to go back to coal and gas, and we need to, coal in particular, and we need to bring back manufacturing jobs. We need to get people into factories. While China is saying, no, we need to get people out of factories and put robots in there instead because it's safer, because it's cheaper, or it's faster. We can build better machines or whatever because we're using robots. Now, of course, the question it raises is, what are the jobs for people? What jobs will people do? This is why we need a UBI or universal basic income, because people will need to have money. Can they stand for parliament? They do a better job than a lot of MPs. You know, maybe Clacton will be better served by a robotic MP. No, I think it's not that far-fetched, is it? Instead of having, somebody who doesn't actually listen to you, having a robot that would actually listen to you and ask questions on your behalf. A ChatGPT in the House of Commons, representing you, it could take in all the questions. It will be able to filter through the questions, identify, okay, which questions are more important, which are more popular, maybe rewrite your question to make it more interesting or something like that, I think that could be the way to go. It'd be better than what you have at the moment, because Nigel Farage doesn't bother to even listen to his constituents. So yeah, it could actually be a good choice. Not sweet like R2D2, no. But there was another clip I couldn't find it before the live stream, but there was a clip of a robot working in a nursing home, in a care home, so lifting people out of a bed and putting them into a wheelchair. I've been saying for some time, we're probably going to see more of that. But once again, what happens to people? We need to have a backup plan. We need to have a plan B. And if there isn't, we're going to see chaos. So guys, I want to say thank you so much to everyone who came on tonight. Thank you so much for your support. Thanks to everyone who sent a super chat. Thanks to the moderators for doing a wonderful job as always. Greatly appreciated. Before we finish, we have our one for the road. So I'm going to bring this up now. As always, thanks for your support, and have a great week, and I'll see you on Friday. Hopefully, I'll see you on Friday.
Better get on Twitter. No, I don't know anything yet. You don't have to know anything to go on Twitter. Have you been on Twitter recently? I think we all know what went on here, and then I'll just put something about people from certain cultures.
What race was he?
I'm not going to ask if the people are okay. I'm trying to find out someone's race, aren't I?
Where was he really from?
What colour was the car, actually? It wasn't a white car. What does that tell you? I just think if we want to show solidarity with the victims, we've got to find out if this guy's Muslim. Children were injured. What race were they? If it is a white guy, then that's a bad dude. If it's a non-white guy, it was all of them. I reckon the police better report this guy's race. They did it already? Well, that's too fast. I know it's what I wanted, but why did they report this guy's race so quickly? What do they think we're going to do? Race riots? Again? And I was asking for them to report his race, but they have done that too quickly for my liking. Why have they not made his name public yet? He's not been charged, and that's normal police procedure. Alright, fine. I'll accept that this time. No, not just because he's white. Who am I kidding? Yeah, exactly because of that.
It's true. So once again, have a great week. I'll see you on Friday, same bad time, same bad channel. Thanks to everyone who came on, and have a great one. Stay safe, take care, and good night.